A couple months ago, I was tearing out my tomato garden because it had just gotten a little bit too wild and there were a lot of volunteers in there. But we have a lot of critters here up in the mountains, and so it had just become a frustration to me and kind of a mess. And as I was tearing it out, I got attacked by a bunch of spiders. And most of the bites were on my left arm, on my tricep. And I had multiple bites. And they started out with these like sacks of hard fluid that was in my arm. And it's kind of funny that I'm even saying this because I really am not afraid of spiders, and I was talking about that in another video recently, but I did get attacked by these spiders. So they started out that way, and I actually didn't feel the spider bites until later that night when I was sleeping, so probably about 12 hours later, which is kind of what happens when you get bit by a brown recluse. And that can be really, really serious. Well, the bumps were or the lumps, they were more like lumps, not bumps, but they were very, very itchy, and the skin broke, and it was just a really disgusting healing process. And then it went away, and I thought, okay, it's gone, and that's good. But now it's a couple months later, and I feel this pain, like I almost feel like, I don't even really know how to describe the pain in my arm, but it's in my bone. It kind of feels like it's in my bone. It's in my muscle, and it's incredible soreness. So I was looking this up to see, like, can the venom stay, like, in your arm for a while? Or wherever you get bit? And actually, that's a thing. And it is so incredibly painful that it wakes me up at night. And I usually sleep on my left side, so that's part of it. But it's been really, really painful. And yet, the thing that I teach you guys, it really doesn't matter how God brings it. God's bringing it. So this whole story about how this happened, I'm telling you how it happened to let you know it's not a syndrome, it's not a medical emergency. This is something that God has brought in order to help me to deal with my sin. He knows how he's doing it, and he knows why he's doing it. And he spoke into the metaphor then, and he's speaking into the metaphor now. And yes, this is relentless. We are going to have to be cleaned up until the day of the Lord. So yes, he's going to keep sending things. And the wise will turn and recognize that he is sovereign and that he sends these things, and that we need to deal with it until the day of the Lord. It's not a medical issue for me to go to the doctor and have them, medicate away what God is sending me. I'm going to live, and I'm also going to recover faster than if I were to go to the doctor and take their medications, because I'm going to learn the lesson, and I'm not going to have to keep taking medications for this and that, fighting away what God is sending, so that he has to keep sending me more and more things to bring me to the place that it's his will to bring me. So as I've been looking at this, he's been dealing with me on idolatry. That's been a huge thing that he's been dealing with me on. He has rooted idolatry out of me for the most part, but he's showing me who I've been, and he's showing me that this is something so deep that needs to come out of my bones and my muscles. And he has sent other metaphors and other lessons to where he's showing me that he is cleaning me up, and he's cleaning some very deep parts out of me, some deep sin. And he's been showing me in my dreams who I've been, what I've done, the evil that I chased. And I mean, I chased evil. Anyone who's ever had what the world calls addiction, anyone who's ever, these kinds of things, you know what I'm talking about. I chased it all day long. And the word says that the one with the greater debt is going to love him more. And concurrently, I'm dealing with these feelings of having zeal for him and wanting to serve him, but feeling really ineffective. There's 865 people as of today on the channel. I know that some of you not only listen to me, but you listen to New Age nonsense, you listen to false teachers and false prophets, you do occult meditations and call them Christian, you watch The Chosen, and you call that Christian. I know that the majority of people on this channel, that there is a handful of people who actually show up and obey and observe God's Sabbaths, his holy days, his new moons, who come to the 3 days a week that I offer for free in person to learn about their covenant and work out their covenant. And it's so grievous to me. And I just feel ineffective. And it's not that I'm not doing what it is that he's told me to do. I'm doing what he's told me to do every single day. But it just pains me so much. It's hard for me. And I think about how Jesus is prophesied in Isaiah to say, I've labored in vain, I've spent my strength for nothing at all, yet what is due me is in the Lord's hand, and my reward is with my God. And I know that most of you do not understand. I know that you don't understand right now what I'm doing, what I'm warning, what I'm saying, what you're being given right now. Just like people didn't understand when the apostles were here, when Jesus was here, when the prophets were here, they didn't understand. And there kind of comes a point where you feel like, I don't even know what to say, and I don't want to be vulnerable anymore and say anything anymore because I don't see the fruit. I don't see fruit that is compensatory to being broken all day to do this. I don't see people getting it, understanding the sacrifice, listening to what I'm saying about the times, but I'm going to keep going. Because I do know that God testifies to what I say, and I do know that this is what he has me doing. It's just really hard to keep going for something that you can't see the fruit of right now. Like, you don't receive the rewards right now. And it's so hard to not have that direct feedback, like the reward of what you're doing, to be able to see the fruit of what you're doing. But the word says that I'm going to see my children. The word says that I'm going to wear them as ornaments, and I'm going to say, well, who bore me these? Where did all these come from? I'm saying things every single day that only a handful of people take seriously enough to obey. And then I see that some people are listening to false teachers, dabbling in New Age that they call Christian. And I see it and I think, is this message and the breaking I go through to bring that message really equivalent to all that? Like, that's where it's on the same page? Like, how can you listen to me and to that? Does anyone hear the things I'm saying? Does anyone really understand that I gave up my careers, my so-called financial security, my wealth, my life? My life, every day of my life is given to this. To bring this to you for free, to be here for you, to have conversations, to pray with you, to make myself completely available. Like, is this really valued? Because this is my life. Like, I've given my life to this. And indeed, I was called to give my life to this. And in a couple of years, I'll give it up completely. So I start to think about the sacrifice that Jesus made. And recently, God brought me to Psalm 22, and I'll read it to you. But I start to remember things like Jesus saying, I've spent my strength in vain. Him turning to the disciples or the apostles and asking them, are you going to leave too? When people were just dropping off. Like, you listen to a New Age message, or you listen to a message that tickles your ears, or any number of false teachers and false prophets who aren't telling you that you need to turn from the things that you're doing, that you need to turn away from the world. And I think it's just so easy to, like, dislike, unsubscribe. Not that that alone does anything to me, but it's the issue of people not wanting truth. That's what grieves me. That's what causes me to sit here and think about what was written about Jesus. My bones are on display, and I don't mean to be blasphemous because my bones are not on display. I'm not experiencing, obviously crucifixion and being bludgeoned the way that Jesus was, but I am on display. I'm on display for people who don't care, who don't get it, and who don't obey. And there's a part of doing that, like serving God, that makes you just feel so worthless here. And yet you know that you're so valuable to God. Even though at the end of the day, he doesn't need me to do anything for him. It's his good pleasure to have children who want to serve him in his name, who want to be part of his kingdom and his family, who see what he's doing and want to do it too, Like, I think of a little child who sees what dad's doing in the garage and says, can I help? They just want to do exactly what their parents are doing. And the dad that says, yes, let me show you how. You have to stay real close to me and you can't separate from me. And that's how I feel. Here I am, send me. Like, I have that zeal and I want to keep serving, and I know that what he's doing is real, but it's hard when you don't see that fruit. And I'm starting to remember, what Jesus says. I'm sending you out to reap what you haven't sown. And I'm thinking about all the work that Jesus did in his ministry to plant those seeds, all the work he did even before coming here, and then to send out the apostles to go and reap, send those workers into the field. And I'm thinking about the work that the witnesses are doing right now, and all of the children that the multitude in white robes are going to go out to harvest. And it's given me a real appreciation for what Jesus was doing when he was here, that he was working every day, that he was dying for people who were rejecting him and calling for his death, who hated him, and that he kept looking ahead and believing that what he was doing was going to bear fruit, that the promise of saving humanity through his sacrifice was real. Because he didn't get to see it before he died, he had to believe that it was real. He had to stay really close to the Father, not separate from him, listen to his instructions, and know that that was the truth, that what God says is the truth, not what the world says. It's not as easy as we think it is, and was not as easy for Christ as we act like it was. And God always makes me realize that. He always makes me realize what the Son did, that he came here like a man just like any one of us, having the same longings and the same desires, in the same flesh condition that all of us are in, but maintaining that zeal and holding on to the hopes of the promises that God would fulfill in his time. So that's what he's bringing me into understanding right now, that he will fulfill in his time. And it's hard because the world's rewards are immediate, but the gratification that God promises is something that we have to hold out for while concurrently suffering and holding on to that belief that we will bear fruit. It's so different from anything that I ever thought this would be about, but it makes total sense. It makes more sense than anything the world is saying about what it means to be Christian. I just keep also thinking today about all of the things that God has spoken to me about since he called me, relenting his anger about the churches and the field of science, universities, about them trying to covet and usurp his glory and his power and his relationship with his creations. And all he's shown me in Scripture and talked with me about with regard to the Antichrist and those churches. I can't believe that I'm seeing right before my eyes all of the things that he told me would happen, although he didn't tell me how they were going to happen. Like I'm seeing Hollywood becoming Catholic and Christians becoming Catholic, quote-unquote Christians becoming Catholics through shows and movies. They're fools. They don't even distinguish between falsehood and truth. And they think that knowing Jesus is in fleshy appeals. Like you're going to go cry over The Chosen or The Passion of the Christ, these false images of Jesus, and call that Christian. I feel so sick over it. And I can't believe all of the ways that I've seen this through Christian nationalism and Christian Zionism and Hollywood, The Chosen, The Passion, Jesus Revolution, these meditation apps that they're promoting that are just new age. Like they're new age, meditate in your flesh, and they teach you Catholic mysticism, channeling, like in that abomination of a devotional called Jesus Calling. All the music that they call worship, singing these false lyrics to God and calling that worship. The false churches, the political Catholicism, turning from the covenant, making God a business and a prostitute. I feel furious, but I feel broken at the same time. Like I feel zeal for his house, and I want to flip over tables and scream over this, but my hands are tied. And I take it up with him and I ask him, like, where is my influence? You've set me aside to do this and this is it? Where is my influence? I have no influence. A few people who do the work and show up. I feel so ineffective for God. And it just makes me realize that I have no abilities of myself. What could I actually do to make people see, to have an impact? But then he responds to me and tells me everybody's going to know. They're all going to know what I'm doing right now. They're going to know what his son did. They're going to know what his prophets and apostles did. I just have to stay close to him. I have to not separate from him. I have to want to learn. I have to be that child that goes into the garage and wants to know what dad is doing. What are you working on? Can I do it too? How can I be just like you? Show me how to be your child. Show me how to be an instrument for special purposes. And just keep my focus on what he's doing for his kingdom, what my orders are, what my duty is, how do I fulfill this debt that I have to him. Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer, by night, but I find no rest. Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the one Israel praises. In you our ancestors put their trust. They trusted and you delivered them. To you they cried out and were saved. In you they trusted and were not put to shame. But I am a worm and not a man, scorned by everyone, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord, they say. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. Yet you brought me out of the womb. You made me trust in you, even at my mother's breast. From birth I was cast on you. From my mother's womb you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near and there's no one to help. Many bulls surround me. Strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. Roaring lions that tear their prey open their mouths wide against me. I'm poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax. It is melted within me. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You lay me in the dust of death. Dogs surround me. A pack of villains encircles me. They pierce my hands and feet. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. But you, Lord, do not be far from me. You are my strength. Come quickly to help me. Deliver me from the sword, my precious life from the power of dogs. Rescue me from the mouths of lions. Save me from the horns of the wild oxen. I will declare your name to my people. In the assembly I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him. All you descendants of Jacob, honor him, revere him. All you descendants of Israel, for he has not despised or scorned the suffering of the afflicted one. He has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry for help. From you comes the theme of my praise in the great assembly. Before those who fear you, I will fulfill my vows. The poor will eat and be satisfied. Those who seek the Lord will praise him. May your hearts live forever. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations will bow down before him. For dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship, and all who go down to the dust will kneel before him. Those who cannot keep themselves alive, posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord. They will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, he has done it. By the way, that is verse 30 and 31. Posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord, capital L, lowercase O-R-D. That's talking about Jesus. They will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, he has done it. And as is written in Revelation, he is worthy. All of these things before him, not during his life. Not like he was rejoicing, oh, my sacrifice and everything I'm doing is so compensatory to what I'm receiving, right? No, you heard what is written about him. My bones are on display. Rescue me, rescue me. But look at the promise set before him. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations will bow down before him, for dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. Okay, that's talking about the Father. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship. All who go down to the dust will kneel before him, those who cannot keep themselves alive. Posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord. capital Lord. They will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, he has done it. God has had me read this so many times this week to understand what it is that we have to do, what we have to become in order to serve him and in order to participate in that first resurrection. This is the time that we're living in. Like, this is that time where no one living at this time is going to rise in the second resurrection. You're in one of two groups. You're either in the first resurrection or the lake of burning sulfur. We've been called for such an important time, the culmination of this age. And the bar is so incredibly high. And the weird thing is, it's a weird thing to be living during this time, but yet the generation before us, or generations before us, just their bar was so incredibly low. Anybody could be a Christian, right? And that's from the righteous of that generation. And certainly the bar has always been what the bar has been. But to realize it now, to realize such an incredible, distinct delineation between those who are his and those who are not, because we fall in one of two categories at this time, is just incredible. I mean, the generations before, some of them are going to be given an opportunity to rise in the second resurrection and be saved only as one escaping the flames. But in this generation, it will not. You will go into one of two categories, and Revelation makes that super clear. And so to see it like this is really grievous. Like, it's really grievous to see that there are people who cannot be confronted with the truth, because they just don't care about the truth. It's obvious. It is blatantly obvious when you're saying the Bible says this, and would you like to read the Bible with me? Can I show you where this is? No, I don't want to see it. What? What do you mean you don't want to see it? Parents rejecting their own children, trying to show them the truth. I don't get that at all. How can you be so arrogant as to not even be willing to be influenced by your child? And then to not want the truth that you claim is going to save you. It's bizarre. I just don't get it at all. It is so bizarre. And yet I do, because I've been evil. I chased evil for a long time in my life. I really don't know why God wanted me to share this message with you, but I hope it's blessed you in some way. This is just where I'm at today. This is really hard, and the bar is so high. I really just had no idea how high the bar is, and I found myself saying to God a lot in the past few weeks, Lord, I've given everything to you. If this isn't enough, who can be saved? And yet he keeps bringing me in deeper, and he keeps giving me the strength as he deems is appropriate to bring me in deeper and deeper and deeper to places I cannot go of myself. I guess that's the thing I just want you to know, is that the bar is a lot higher than we think. And with man, these things are impossible, but with God, he will bring us there. It is possible for us to go to places that we never thought we could. I spent a long time working on those degrees and those businesses. By the standard of the world, I deserved that, and God had me give it all up. Doing the very thing he said was harder than for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Impossible to do what he had me do, and yet he made it happen. Please don't be lazy. Please don't be stupid. Love truth and do whatever you have to do to gain wisdom. To be moved by God, to follow his laws and keep his decrees, and to fulfill this covenant, because there's not a lot of time left to do that. You need to have returned to him before that fifth trumpet blows in less than 2 years. And you need to know what it means to return to him, because some of us think we have done that and we haven't. When you return to him, what you should expect is that you no longer feel fear of man, that you no longer have a spirit of fear that is compelling you to act outside of your integrity, that you no longer sin intentionally, that you are being moved to follow his laws and keep his decrees. So you're on an upward trajectory of growth. Like, you're not stagnant. You're not like, ooh, I'm saved. Oh, saved by the bell. And then you go back and live your life in the world. It's impossible to live that way if you're in God, if you've really returned to him. It's impossible. And yet I've seen so many return and experience those things and then fall. So you need to make sure that you're returning now, so you've got that down before you start needing to demonstrate that you are in this covenant during the Antichrist reign. If you can't do it now, you will not do it later. Please take that to God and discern it with him.